with your Phil Steele Tour for Week 3, 2025. And up for you today, I've got 5 more selections for you, 6 quick hitters for you. And let's do a quick bit of housekeeping. What were the records last week? Well, how about 3-2 last week? And what a disappointing loss on the Missouri and Kansas game. We had Kansas plus 6.5. It made Scott Van Pelt's bad beats. But just to show you, in case you didn't follow the game, remember when you click right here on the box score, this gets you the box score for the game. And I'd like to thank collegepressbox.com for allowing us to post these box scores. But we're going to take it all the way down to the fourth quarter. Remember, Kansas was plus 6.5 in this game, and you had to feel good right here. Kansas leads 31-28. There's 8 minutes to go in the game. Missouri drives down the field. They convert on 4th and 7. We stopped this 4th and 7. We're in great shape. On 4th and 1, they get a 27-yard TD pass, and they lead by 4. But guess what? We're still covering. We're in great shape. Kansas gets the ball on 3rd and 7. This pass is right in Henderson's hands. It's a first down for Kansas. He drops it, so we have to punt. But that's not bad. If Missouri gets 2 first downs, the game's over, and they've got to drive 75 yards. Now they're just here to run the clock out and win the game. They get a first down run for 11 yards. They run for 1 yard. And then here it is, 2nd and 9. Let's get that first down and then take a knee, and Kansas has covered. He runs to the left, breaks off a 63-yard touchdown, and Missouri wins the game by 11, and we don't cover. So instead of 4-1, it was a 3-2 week, and that did make the bad beats for Scott Van Pelt. So let's do a little housekeeping, update our tour records for you. And we see now the selections are 29-15 the last 10 weeks, 74-50 the last 21. The FCS selections, I hope you checked them out on Saturday with Chris, 32-16 over 2 years. And the combined tour selections now, 77-52, 66% winners. Now, the NFL play I gave you here lost last week. That dropped it to 6 losses. But I also, remember in week 0, I gave you San Francisco over Seattle. So that was a win, and it's now 7-6-1 for the NFL. I don't have an NFL play for you today. Our boy Craig didn't come up with one. However, Craig did go 3-0 on my NFL press box selections last week. So thank you for that, Craig. Really appreciate it. So the tour is doing well. Last week, overall records, 3-2 for the week. Should have been 4-1. Quick hitters went 4-2, and the FCS went 3-1. So a 10-5 week last week. I'll take that every week, guys. All right, let's open up with our starting one. And I know you guys see Eastern Michigan over here, and you're thinking, Phil, you're going to pick Eastern Michigan as an away dog again? They lost for you against Texas State earlier in the year. Guess what? I'm taking Kentucky in this one. I'm calling it a red-green game, and let's delve into this one a little bit more. Now, normally when you see Eastern Michigan up here, they're an outstanding away dog. And, if you click right here, you got all your spread records. And we could see that their away dog spread record has been outstanding, 33-14. But 2-2 last year and 0-1 this year. So he's on a 2-3 run as an away dog. So I'm not scared of that anymore. You've got Kentucky. Now, let's see how Kentucky does in non-conference games. This is one where if you're Kentucky and you play in the SEC, you've got to win your non-conference games to be able to go to a bowl because, odds are you're going to have a losing record in SEC play. Well, look at this. 3-1, 4-1, 3-2, 3-2. Stoops is 18-7 in non-conference games over the last few years, and they need a win here. Also, one thing I want to point out, and I love these spread records, by the way. How about as a 20-plus favorite? Look at this, 4-1 the last 2 years as a 20-plus favorite. So you like that coming in. Against Toledo earlier, they didn't cover, but they weren't a 20-plus favorite, so keep that in mind. So you've got a great non-conference team. You've got the fact that they need to win to get the SEC. And there's a lot of talk, and one of the reasons that the spread in this game came down a little bit, down to 23.5, is Zach Calzada got injured last week and might be out. But a couple things I want to point out there. First of all, look at Zach Calzada's stats. He's hitting 47% with an 0-1 ratio. Are we missing anything if this guy doesn't start? Also, who is Cutter Boley? Well, Cutter Boley actually is a PS number 11 quarterback. And look at his stats last year. He struggled. He had 49% with a 2-4 ratio. But as you know, if you click on individual player stats, it tells you who they played and what they did. Well, he took on Florida's defense in the swamp off the bench and hit 0 for 6 with an interception. I understand that. Against Murray State, he hit 10 of 14 for 130 yards, 2-0 ratio. So against a weaker defense, he did well. He played Texas on the road, hit 10 of 18 with an 0-1 ratio. And then Louisville, a team that was geared and bound to try to win the rivalry game for the first time. He struggled, 6 of 15, but Louisville's got a good pass rush. So a good defense, and a really good defense here. He struggled against the 3 really good defenses he faced, but did well against the weaker Ds. And so if you look here, last week he did play Mississippi's defense a little bit off the bench, struggled again, but now he's taking on Eastern Michigan's defense. And I call this a red-green game because what Kentucky's going to want to do, they've got Dante Dowdell and Seth McGowan. These are 2 really good backs. And look at this. We're 2 games into the season. These guys are each averaging almost 100 yards per carry, 100 yards per game, I should say, 185 and 171, 6.6 and 5.2 with 4 touchdowns. They want to run the football. Look at Eastern Michigan's run defense. 392 yards, 10.1. Long Island ran for 231. And by the way, we used Long Island on the FCS tour last week, plus 21.5 against Eastern Michigan. They won the game outright, ran for 231 yards, 5.1. So they're giving up 312 yards per game, 7.4. If you have a new quarterback, you want to run the football, this is a running team. You have green here, you have red here. Kentucky should be able to average close to 7 yards per carry in this game. And if you do that, you're going to control the game. It's a red-green game. Your first selection, Kentucky, minus 23.5. And that is against Eastern Michigan this week. Let me just take a look real quick, see if I had these guys on the schedule predictor. I did right there. And as you see here, the schedule predictor, by the way, these best bets out here in the green, I don't list them all. I'm just listing the games we're talking about here. They went 4-0 last week. You got to love it. So whenever this one, the column out here is in green like this, that's a best bet. These are not best bets, but they're close. That means they have 2 things going for them. And how this works, look over here in your best bet categories. And here's your best bet overall records. Here's your best bet records for the previous week. Last week's winner was, hey, Phil's preseason line went 8-1 last week. The situation home team went 10-2. Revenge Factor, which was golden, only went 1-4 last week, so it's now 90-45. And out here, this went 2-3. So a couple of them had losing records, but the majority of these best bet factors, you're going to have best bets going against each other. So you have to add and subtract. But anyway, here, Kentucky by 36, Kentucky by 43. Kentucky's played a much tougher schedule. Kentucky by 39. That's 4 best bets all working on them. It's a Kentucky 4 best bet play. It's also a red-green game. We're going with Kentucky minus 23.5 over Eastern Michigan. All right, let's get to your schedule predictor game. And for this one, we take a look at this other best bet that I have listed here, FAU by 3. As mentioned, 4-0 last week for the green ones. I think there's 5 or 6 best bets this week. I'm showing you 2 of them here. But we're going to put Florida Atlantic on the left, and we're going to put Florida International on the right. Let's get Florida International called up here. Florida International is in the CUSA. And first of all, I like taking an American team against a CUSA team, and we're getting points here. Florida Atlantic plus 3 in this one. Caden Veldkamp playing well, hitting 64% with a 6.4 ratio. Now, he had interception problems against Maryland, but we're not playing Maryland. But I think you get a misleading final here in the fact that they were minus 6 in turnovers against Maryland and lost the game 39-7. They really didn't play bad. In fact, had 23-22 first down edge in the game, and last week they put it on Florida A&M. So you look at that opening game score and you say that's a bad team. Then Florida Atlantic's better in their record. This was a minus 6. I'm going to call that a somewhat misleading game there. And Caden Veldkamp, a very solid QB. FIU is playing well. They did beat Bethune-Cookman 42-9, about the same score Miami beat them. Played really good against Penn State last week. Half times are right here. It was only 10-0 at the half with a 190-151 yard edge. But a couple things I want to point out here. First of all, let's look at how Florida International does as a favorite of 3 or less. 1-6. And that's what they're favored by here. So this is a really bad situation for them. By the way, I love this. You've got some of this in the magazine. Look at how deep this thing goes. You go all the way down to versus top 10, versus ranked, conference dogs. So favorite 3 or less, and these are on every team. You just click right here where I've been clicking. You saw where I click. 1-6 is 3 or less. in these games. They've got FIU as a home favorite. They are 9-16-2, but take away this final one, this 2-0-2 out here. That's 7-16 as a home favorite. And then we look at Florida Atlantic, and we click on them, and Florida Atlantic as an away dog, 19-14-1. So you got a good away dog, poor home favorite, a team that doesn't do well when favored by 3. It's a technical play on the schedule predictor, which is up right now. And I did update all the lines this morning for you. So the lines are updated. It's almost fully loaded for the week. Make sure, if you're a Phil Steele Plus member, make sure you check out your schedule predictor this week. But FAU last year should be favored by 12 because of the final score. They have, and out here you got FAU, and then you've got the technical angle as well. A lot of good stuff. And then, of course, let's take a look at the series history here. And we'll click here and pull this out. And these are all recent games. They've won by 18. They won by 45. They won by 37. They won by 19. They won by 30. They won by 24. And they won by 28. So they have won the last 8 games in this series, all by dominant fashion. The last 7 in the series by 18 points per game. You've got the misleading score. You got the technical factor. And the heck, anytime you get a best bet on the schedule predictor, 4-0 last week, 80-49 for best bets. There's a best bet for you, Florida Atlantic. All right, now, you know me and the battle with the computer. I'm going to get to that. But I would like to mention to you real quick, I want to give you guys a special before I give you the computer one here. And here it is. The battle is on with me and the computer. Now, the computer right now has a big lead. All right, it's kicking my butt early on. I'm actually inside the press box. I'm 7-9. It's been a disappointing start to the season for me, but you know it's going to improve. You know it's going to get great as the season goes on. Computer, 9-4. Yeah, he's lording that over me all week long. Computer is now 62-37 the last 27 weeks. And have you guys ever looked at the write-ups I have for offense and defense? I always look at when I'm doing these write-ups, I look at go back to the previous year's magazine, see what my computer forecast for the season, yards, offensive points, offensive yards. It's amazing how close it comes for season. Look how it's doing during the week. 62-37 the last 27 weeks, 9-4 this year. And I mentioned, by the way, that Craig went 3-0 on his NFL best bets last week for PressBox. I have a special tour offer for you. PressBox right now is $169. NFL is $169. The bundle is $269. But for you guys, because you take the time on the tour, if you enter in the code TourChampC, you can get my college inside the press box for $129. TourChamp P is your code for NFL, $149. Or if you want them both, college and pro, it's $199. Now that gets you the write-up for inside the press box, and I'm going to show you what the write-up looks like in a minute. You get the write-up for every single game, and that includes every FBS versus FCS game. Complete write-ups every game, including my computer's projected box and my complete write-up on the game. That's what you get right here and every single week. But you also get Phil Steele Plus. All this stuff I'm showing you on Phil Steele Plus, $99 value, that's in free when you subscribe to Inside the Press Box. So look, you want to subscribe to Phil Steele Plus, it's $99. Get the college for $129. You get a great newsletter for the entire year all the way through the regular season. And you also get Phil Steele Plus. It's a tremendous deal. You can call 866-918-7711, or you could just enter in the codes that I have mentioned here for the TourChamp C for the college, TourChamp P for the pro, TourChamp B for the bundle. And once you sign up for Inside the Press Box, and we're sending out the newsletter today for the college, you get instant access to Phil Steele Plus. So make sure you sign up for that today. That's your special right here just for taking the tour. Now, I bring that up because I want to show you this is what it looks like. And this is something I used last year. And I know some of you say, hey, Phil, you're cheating. You're just trying to win. You're just trying to beat the computer. You're not letting the computer use all its plays. Last year, 7 times I put up the play, which was the computer wanted to use, but I wouldn't let them play. And that's what this is this week. So let me click over here and click on your home team, which is Arkansas State. And we're going to put that over here. And we are going to put on the right Iowa State. And that is Iowa State Big 12 over here. All right. And now let's take a look at the write-up on this baby, which is right here. This is what you get with Inside the Press Box each week. You get my complete write-up on the game. I go through everything I tell you about the game. You get my computer's forecast yards rushing, yards passing, total yards, score of the game, and who's got more experience. So my computer has our Iowa State 45-19. Now my computer has been red hot. Last week, I believe it was 6-1 on his best bets. And I just didn't allow him to use this one as an extra best bet this week. So he's not happy about it. But you're the guys that win, because last year when I did these, 5-2. And so Iowa State's a 20.5-point favorite here. You see the computer likes it. You see I like it. I just didn't allow my computer to use it. I wanted to put it up here on the tour for you guys. And had you added that 5-2, by the way, let me look at those tour records real quick. Just open up. There we go. Had you added that 5-2 for the computer? Nope, wrong one. That's the tour selections. Sorry about that. Press box. What's my computer's record? No, wrong one again. Battle is on. There it is. Computer is 62-37. Add 5-2 to that. 67-39 the last 29 weeks. If I let it put these plays up. So anyway, there's more to it than just the fact the computer likes it. Look at the fact that last year when these two played, Iowa State runs a 3-3-5 defense, which is geared to stop the pass. They led Iowa State 31-0 at the half, won the game 52-7. Now Iowa State had this Ireland game, then the Ireland overlap, and they survived. And they did well. They beat South Dakota State. They beat Iowa last week. And now they've got a bye next week. So they can let all their hair hang down. They can play this one loose and go get it. And look at Arkansas State this year. Now, the thing with Arkansas State coming into the year, you said they're going to have a potent offense. They got Jalen Rayner. They've got Jacquez Cross at running back. And they've got a 1,000-yard receiver in Corey Rucker, all back this year. And so the question mark was defense. Defense, they lost all 11 starters. And look at last week. They gave up 630 yards to Iowa. And I want to show you this real quick. In this game against Iowa, and once again, go to Press Box, or not Press Box, click on the box score, and thanks to collegepressbox.com. But they gave up a 75-yard drive, 80-yard drive, 75-yard drive, and 50-yard drive for a touchdown in the first 10 minutes of the game. 5 minutes left in the first quarter. They had given up 28 points already. That's how much the defense is struggling. Iowa State showed you they can put it on a team, and they beat South Dakota 55-7. Kansas State has a really good defense. Iowa has a really good defense. South Dakota did not. And now they're taking on a defense that's not very good. But also, let's focus on that offense thing. Jalen Rayner is back, no doubt. Last year he had a 16-10 ratio. This year it's 4-2. But Cross, their top running back, he is out for the year. And how about Corey Rucker, your 1,000-yard receiver? And I looked at this and I said, well, Corey Rucker only had 5 receptions. He must have missed a game, right? Well, once again, click on individual player stats. Look at this. Corey Rucker had, down here, Corey Rucker, 2 receptions, 3 receptions. He didn't miss a game. He's just not getting on the 1,000-yard pace like he was last year. So maybe their offense isn't as potent. Their defense is definitely not. Iowa State's been dominant. And this was off Ireland on a short week, playing South Dakota, a good South Dakota team, and they just buried them. And once again, they buried them last year. The computer wanted to use it. I didn't let it. We are going to go with Iowa State minus 20.5 over Arkansas State. The computer wanted to use, but I didn't let it plays 5-2 last year. Let's hope we got another winner in store for you here. Now, how about my AGG and technical play of the week? I showed you those best bets, and I'm going to go back to that in a minute. But maybe what you guys could do, and what I'd like you to do, and you could comment on the YouTube thing on the bottom, if you find 2 angles that when paired together are having a really good record, let me know, because I don't really have time to look and examine the thing that much. But I know if you guys get the chance and you're a Phil Steele Plus member and you see, hey, when this angle, this one lines up with the best bet and that one lines up with the best bet on the same game, it wins like 90% of the time. I want to see it. So I'm going to try this one. And we're going to put Central Michigan on the left, and we're going to put Michigan on the right. So here's Central, and here is Michigan. I'm going to call this the AGG and technical play of the week. So let's go ahead and once again take a look at the schedule predictor. And what I mean that here's your technical section out here. And what this means, if the team that I have listed first is the team the angles apply to, it says Central Michigan home favorite. Well, Phil, they're not a home favorite. No, but the home favorite angle applies to them. The away dog angle applies to them. The non-conference angle applies to them. Now, you can read inside the press box, and all those angles are in the write-up, and they'll say all three of these slant with Central Michigan. You'll find out what the angles are. Or you could just go to Phil Steele Plus, like I'm about to show you, and take a look at what the angles are, and then you'll know, hey, Michigan's not a good home favorite, Central's a good away dog, and Michigan's not good against non-conference. That's why it's a 3-angle. But over here in the AGG, Central Michigan is a plus 17.6, and here that's a technical. So let's see on the year when it's an AGG play, and that's what the best bets are here. They went 19-14 last week. They're 99-63. The technical plays only went 2-3 last week, but they are 43-26. So let's see when an AGG and a technical line up together, how does that play do? If we'll have to research it, but if you guys are saying, hey, when you got the situation in the AGG or you got the situation in the Phil's preseason, whatever you come up with, just let me know on the YouTube if you got one with a great record. I appreciate that. Now you see here, Central Michigan's only a 2 best bet favorite. Why is that? You got a Central Michigan angle here. This might, now I'll tell you, in the situation, which went 10-2 last week, if it's a plus, that means use the home team. If it's a minus, that means it goes with the visitor. So that's a best bet on Central Michigan because it's a minus. That means go against the home team. Central Michigan, that's 3 on Central. Why is this a 2? Because this says Michigan by 44. So you subtract 1, and that's why this is only a 2 play, because there's 1 best bet on Michigan. So do keep that in mind. That's how to use the schedule predictor, and that is up to date. So here's what I want to show you. First of all, let's take a look at Michigan as a home favorite. And Michigan as a home favorite is 2-3, 4-7-1, 7-11-2. So not a great home favorite. Then you take a look at Central Michigan as an away dog. And as an away dog, 23-14-1. So they're a really good away dog. Here's the one that put it over the top for me. It's how does Michigan do in the regular season versus non-conference games? And once again, this, if you click on the last 40 years, you saw me click on it right there. It's right here. This gets you, and it should say like last 40, let's say 5, 10, I do this every 30, 40. There's 49 years of history here, almost 50 full years, all the way back to 1976. I don't know if you're young, you might not realize that they didn't start doing totals on games until 2003. But we've tracked them ever since they've done totals. And then we started putting halftimes in here in 2004. And that's on every single game. You can see the halftime. And if it's bold, that means the team won the game. This right here, the WL, that applies to whether they covered the game or not. And that's important here because let's go back and look at 2024. They had 3 non-conference games, all losses. They had 3 non-conference games here. Loss, loss, loss. These are regular season non-conference games. That is 6 in a row. And then you take a look at this year. Michigan lost to New Mexico. They did not cover. They only won by 17. In fact, in that game against New Mexico, it was set 27-17. Michigan scored last to make it 34-17. It wasn't a backdoor cover. Michigan got a little bit of distance in the fourth quarter. And then, of course, they did not cover against Oklahoma last week. So they have lost 8 in a row in regular season non-conference games. That makes it the technical one. So you got the AGG factor, and here's what the AGG is. It's the average game grade. Now, this has no starting point for a team. So if this was Ohio State with these stats, their AGG would be exactly the same. There's no starting point for the team. It just takes into account the strength of the opponent, the final score of the game, and the total yards for the game, both rushing and passing, both offense and defense. Once again, if Ohio State put up these exact stats, they'd have this exact average game grade. If, let's say, Liberty put up these type of stats in these 2 games, they would have the exact same game grade. So Michigan's game grade in the week 1 against New Mexico, they only played to 103. Central upset San Jose. That got them to 108 point, that level, which is surprising. Huh? They won by 17. They won by 2. But this takes into account who they played on the road. It takes all that into account. These guys were at home against New Mexico. And then last week, so Michigan's playing to 107. They're playing to a 94. Add in the 5-point home field edge. That's only Michigan by 17, and they're laying 27.5. So you add it all up. And now let's also throw in the fact it's a sandwich game. You're off a massive game against Oklahoma. You got a massive game against Nebraska on deck. And now you're playing a non-conference game. So add it all up, your AGG technical play of the week. And that's why, by the way, when you look at this, the schedule predictor, let's click that up and again. That's why this is a minus 1.5. It's a sandwich game for Michigan. All right, so that's 4 plays. Let's get to your 5th one, and it's your situational play of the week. And you can see it right up here at the top. You see the situation? It is a 2 in this one. And we're going to put Temple on the right, and we're going to put Oklahoma on the left. Now, guys, Oklahoma is my number 1 surprise team in the country. I love the dominance of Michigan, the way they beat Michigan last week. I love them the rest of the year. I think they're a possible playoff team. How the heck can I possibly pick against them? Well, don't get used to it. This may be the only week all year I pick against them. But the reason is this. The spread is huge. It's over 3 touchdowns in this one. Temple is plus 21.5 right now. And when you look at Oklahoma, you can't get a bigger sandwich game. You're talking about sold-out crowd, fired up at home for Michigan, SEC opener on deck at home, fired up. And this week they're playing Temple, a team that they handled easily last year, 51-3. But one note I want to put about that game, first of all, it was a completely different Temple team. They've got a different head coach. I'll get to that in a minute. But it was actually 37-3. Oklahoma scored twice, a fumble return late and a touchdown late to get the 51-3 margin in that one last year. But Oklahoma's in a massive sandwich situation here. They also, if you look at their, and this is just me analyzing the game, John Mateer last week ran the ball 19 times out of the running game. He was their run game last week. The running backs didn't get going. You can't run John Mateer 19 times this week, so that means you're going to have to work on your other running backs. And they've got good running backs there, but they've been disappointing. Javante Barnes right now, 577 yards. In fact, you look at how he finished off last year. Barnes had 100-yard games down the stretch last year. But if you take a look at the factor here, you've got Barnes and you've got Ott, but nobody's really getting anything done. I think they're going to concentrate on, hey, let's run the football this week. Now, that shortens up the game. Now, let's go to Temple. Temple's got a really good head coach in K.C. Keeler, who did wonders at Sam Houston last year. Look what he's doing here. They beat UMass 42-10. They were like a 2-point favorite. They beat Howard 55-7. They're playing well. Their quarterbacks this year, look at the accuracy. They're hitting 80% on the season. They've got a 10-0 ratio. Now, granted, UMass and Howard, if you took all their best players in those two teams combined, none of them would start for Oklahoma at all. Oklahoma's defense is far superior. They're not going to put up these type of stats, but they don't make mistakes. I like that. They've got a highly efficient offense. They got Jay Ducker, who was the running back last year at Sam Houston. I think they can keep this one close. You got a small crowd, Philadelphia, Northeast, completely out of the atmosphere out of what Oklahoma was at last week, what Oklahoma's going to be at next week when they're extremely fired up for Auburn. This is the 1 week all year I might pick against Oklahoma. It's only because they're in a flat spot situation. Look what LSU and Louisiana Tech did last week. LSU barely got past Louisiana Tech. So we're going to go with Temple plus 21.5. You got all that stuff going for you. And by the way, the AGG on this game, let's go back and look at that real quick in the schedule predictor. The AGG only has Temple losing by 7.4. So you got the situation. You do have the fact Oklahoma crushed them last year on your favor. The FPI only has Temple by 14. It's a double angle play. You've got a good home dog, evidently. Let's take a look at that. Temple is a home dog. 17-14 is a home dog, so a decent home dog. Let's take a look at Oklahoma as an away favorite. Away favorite, 14-20. And that, if you take away this 5-2, that's 9-18-2 is an away favorite. So you don't have a good away favorite to begin with. You got a flat spot situation. Your situation, game of the week, is to take Temple plus 21.5. Okay, quick hitters, 4-2 last week. Let's run through some quick hitters, and hopefully we get 4 more. Let's get 5 or 6 quick hitter winners for you this week. I'm going to start out with one that I know some of you guys are going to complain about. It's Oregon State. Yeah, I'm throwing them up there against Texas Tech. You say, Phil, get off Oregon State, would you? But last week, they were off such a misleading final. It's ridiculous. Look at this. They had 30 first downs to 15. They had 528 yards to 318. They totally dominated the game. And you look at the final score and you say, well, look, they lost by 9. They weren't even in the game. Nope, that's not true. Let's go take a look at the box score real quick on this one. Now, first of all, Oregon State lost their long snapper. They're going to need to get a good long snapper this week because they had a bad snap on a punt, which went to a Fresno touchdown. They later had a bad snap on a punt, which it's going to probably come up here as stopped on downs. Here, this stopped on downs was a bad snap on a punt. The punter went to a knee. They missed a field goal during the game. They actually went for it for the 2-point conversion 4 times and left 4 points off the board because they failed on all 4 2-point conversions. Still, at the end of the game, let's take a look at this real quick. At the end of the game, even through all that, as mentioned, they had a 30-15 first down edge. They completely dominated the game last week. And then you go to the fourth quarter, and Oregon State comes down here. And Oregon State scores a touchdown. If they get the 2-point conversion, they cover. They're up 27-26. There's only 1:13 left in the game. Fresno comes down the field, kicks the game-winning field goal with just 26 seconds left. So Fresno won the game by 2, right? Wrong. What even makes it worse of a misleading final is that Oregon State's under 38. They throw a pass. It's intercepted, returned 45 yards for a touchdown with 1 second left. Which made it a 9-point game. Anything but a 9-point game. Should have been an Oregon State cover. So much better than the score would indicate. Yes, it was a loss for the quick hitters last week, or actually it was a loss for the selections last week, but should have been a win. Hell, we were 3-2 last week. We had the Missouri loss. We had that loss. Wow. Ugh. Anyway, Texas Tech last week actually didn't cover against Kent State. I don't know if you know that. They did win by 48, but that wasn't enough to cover the spread. We do list, let's see if I listed this one here. Do I have Oregon State? Nope. But if you go back and look at the spread, they did not cover. They have a massive game on next week against Utah. So they're in a little bit of a flat spot. That's a big game next week. We're going to take Oregon State, and they are plus 24.5 in this one against Texas Tech. All right, my streak of the week. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, but a little bit. And it is Utah. And what I'm going to do is this. I'm telling you right now. I'm using Utah this week. If Utah wins, I'm going to use them again next week. If Utah wins again, I'm going to use them again the next week. When you play on a streak, you can win many times. You lose only once. I've told the roulette story in the past. I probably will do that again in the future, especially if Utah keeps this streak rolling. But here's my streak play of the week. Utah's defense was dominant last year. They held opponents to 61 yards per game below their average, number 20 in the country. They're dominant again this year. They didn't have an offense last year. This year they do. Devin Dampier, by the way, if we take a look, what did he do against Wyoming last year? We go to New Mexico. We go back and we take a look at Devin Dampier, individual player stats. Take a look at Wyoming. Not overwhelming stats, but he did run for 207 yards on this defense last year. And New Mexico put up 576 yards with Dampier at quarterback and 45 points. Now, New Mexico had nowhere near the talent Utah does. So Dampier's in a much better situation here. In fact, Whittingham calls it the best offensive line he's had in his 21 years. They've got some receivers this year. They've got the run game. They are dominant. Now, Wyoming's big edge at home is altitude. Utah plays in altitude, so that edge is wiped out. And Utah, I just think is going to be a streak team. They won for me as a best bet in the inside the press box last week with Cal Poly. Actually, they went for the computer. And they won against UCLA for me. I'm going to say they get on a big, long streak here. And if they win this week, I'm going to use them on the tour next week. I'm going to use them on the tour next week and the next week. Let's take Utah. They are minus 20.5, or no, let me see what the spread is. Minus 23.5 against Wyoming. All right, let's go to contender versus pretender. I have a couple of 2-0 teams here. We got USC. They are minus 20.5 against Purdue. Now, Purdue they got a new head coach in Barry Odom. He's doing great. But who they played? They played Ball State. They beat them 31-0. They played Southern Illinois, and they only beat them by 17 last week. It was 24-14 at the half. Look at this. They were actually outgained at the half. They have looked good. They're an Indiana team that has a bunch of transfers. Could they duplicate Indiana's success? No. They're about to be exposed, and USC's the team to do it. And the thing with USC, and I mentioned in all my radio shows this year, they were, at this point, 6-5, but they were 5 plays away from being 11-0. You go back to this game against Michigan, they gave up a touchdown on 4th and goal at the end after giving up a long run on the final drive. Minnesota, they led in the fourth quarter. Maryland, they were kicking a game-clinching field goal to go up by 9. It got blocked, returned to midfield, and then Maryland got a late touchdown to beat them by 1. The Washington game, they got stopped on downs twice inside the 10-yard line, or could easily have won. And they were 5 plays away from being 11-0 last year. And look how they're doing this year. Absolutely dominant. Number 1 in the nation in offense, 66 points per game, 676 yards per game. D'Anton Lynn doing a great job on defense. And if they go to the backups, look at this. Husan Longstreet is a VHT. He's 13 of 15 so far throwing the football. So that's a nice backup. You know you can still get distance with him in the game at the end. Purdue has a completely rebuilt team. Go back and check out my homegrown blog that I put up a few weeks ago. Go under blogs, go under archives, go under homegrown blogs. And they are a completely rebuilt team. Brought in a bunch of players after the spring. This is one where the AGG has USC by 25. As you see, a dominant thing here. They've played 2 weak teams and look good. They're going to get exposed this week. Contender versus pretender. Take USC minus 20.5 over Purdue. All right, your line value play. Now, last week, frustrating, guys. I gave you a line value play, as you recall. And once again, we go to the schedule predictor and open that up. We see that the line value plays last week went 8-1. And the one loss was Oregon State. And I just explained to you what the hell happened in the Oregon State game. This is a line value play here. You got Georgia Southern at home, and they are taking on Jacksonville State. And Jacksonville State did look good last week. I will give them that. Let's click on Jacksonville State. They played well in the opener. They played UCF tough. Liberty, they played tough. They were outgained 241 to 154 at the half. They had 2 turnovers turned into 2 short touchdowns, and that gave them the lead. They ended up winning 34-24, so I will give them that. But when you look at Georgia Southern, look who they've played so far this year. They have played on the road to Fresno and on the road to USC. They were close against Fresno, and then 2 in the morning, they ended up losing 42-14. Stayed out on the West Coast and lost to that USC team I just showed you. Now they're back at home. I think Georgia Southern is a contender in the Sun Belt. And I think when you look at Jacksonville State, they're a completely rebuilt team. I think they're going to struggle this year. They haven't so far this year, but I think they will. Now, at the start of the year, as you saw with the schedule predictor, I had this one, Georgia Southern minus 14. But because of the results the first 2 weeks, Georgia Southern's only laying 3.5. These things did well. Don't overreact to the first early results of the season. 8-1 last week for these plays, 88-48. So the preseason line was 14. I'm sticking with Georgia Southern here, minus the 3.5. All right, let's look at your injury cluster game. This one's interesting, and let's go to Phil Steele for a minute and go to my Twitter account here. Let's see if we can get that going. We'll click on that and close this up a little bit. All right. And there's an interesting site. I know that you guys go all over. It's Minuteman Command. There we go. Let's go there and follow that. And when you go to Minuteman Command, they actually listed the injuries for UMass. It is a respectable site. They have a lot of good information up here if you follow UMass football. Now, not all these guys are going to be out necessarily, but this is who Harrismick listed as out earlier in the week. Brandon Rose, Ty Harding, Malcolm Green, McConaughey, Barnes, Weldman, Daniel. These 2 guys are definitely out there out for the year. Now, some may return by game day. That's all fine. But they do have 3 of their top guys in the secondary on this list. It's a banged-up team. Now, they're playing Iowa, and Iowa right now is laying 34.5 to UMass. So let's go take a look at UMass for the season here. And we'll click back over here and get UMass coming up. Come on. These are supposed to be quick hitters, Phil. All right, team page. We're going to click on UMass, and they are in the MAC conference. UMass has struggled. The first game of the season, they lost to Temple 42-10. And they lost to Bryant last week, 27-26. They did lead at the half. Iowa is a team that needs to get one thing going. Their pass game. Look at this. But they do have weapons. I think Gronowski, when you look at him, he was the South Dakota State QB. Did a good job there. He's got some weapons here. I think they work on their pass game this week, get it going, especially against a banged-up secondary. I know you don't like laying a lot of points with Iowa, but they're off a loss. And they're taking on a team that's weak in the pass defense here. They need to work on that pass efficiency this week. I'm going to take Iowa minus the 34.5 over UMass because we're off a loss and because I think they get the pass game rolling. They need to get it rolling prior to the start of conference play. All right, we're going to wrap it up. with one final thing. You already know about me versus a computer. I know my computer's beat me so far this year. But this is a game where I actually like me versus the computer. You look at this matchup, Georgia against Tennessee, and naturally, if you look at Tennessee's AGG, they're playing at 121.2 level. They beat Syracuse handily. They beat East Tennessee State. But neither one of these two teams has a good defense. Georgia has a good defense. You go back to this Marshall game. They actually allowed Marshall 1 first down in the first 3 quarters. Here's the thing with Georgia. They don't cover as a big favorite. They are a very poor big favorite. Look at this, 16, 35-1, 0-5 last year, 1-5. That's 1-10-1. They're 0-2 as a big favorite this year. Kirby Smart plays a lot of players, doesn't go for the throat. They have been lackluster their first 2 games. But Marshall had 1 first down after 3 quarters, and they did what they had to do to beat Austin Peay. Now you will see them play well. And when you put Kirby Smart on the road as an away favorite, he does a great job. Take away this 1-2 over here, you're 20-14 ATS as an away favorite. So you got a good away favorite, and then you look at the series history. Georgia has just absolutely dominated this thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 straight wins. The closest that these two teams have been is 14 points. And here's your final factor. Joey Aguilar for Tennessee was the quarterback for App State last year. Now, he's thrown some passes into coverage, but got away with it because he's played 2 bad defenses. But last year, he actually led the FBS with 14 interceptions, and he's going against this defense. Georgia's back to having that defense this year. I think he throws some ints this week. So you've got the fact that Georgia knows how to face Tennessee's offense. They do well every year, beat them by 14+ every single game. And I'm going to go with Georgia. My computer, naturally, all the stats say Tennessee, but I'm going with Georgia -3.5. Well, there you go. I gave you your tour special. I'll bring that up just real quick once again for you. Those are your codes. In case you missed it earlier, that way don't go back and watch it. These are your prices. It includes Phil Steele Plus for the year. Don't forget to check out this Saturday morning. 3-1 again for the FCS plays. I'll have more FCS plays up for you Saturday morning. And I want to thank you for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour with me this week.